years ago, just when I was starting out my career, jobs were scarce. I took a job at a data storage warehouse for a mid-sized bank. Because I was the low man on the status pole, I was forced to work the overnight shift because someone had to be there, just in case. It made for some long and boring nights all by myself. I was only there if something went terribly wrong. I was housed in the basement of our corporate headquarters. Basically at night, it was me and maybe one janitor in the building, and sometimes not even the janitor was there. On one night, when I knew the janitor wasn't there because of some kind of family emergency, we had a massive storm and the power went out across several city blocks, putting the place in a near complete darkness. It looked like some of our backup generators also failed because there was just enough power to keep the servers up and a few of the emergency lights. What I didn't know was that somehow when the power went off, it broke the auto-locking mechanism on some of the outside doors. It was an unknown issue with the security system that proved to be a real and very scary flaw. When the power dropped, I was away from my desk and literally caught with my pants down in the bathroom. Fortunately, I had my cell phone with me, so I had its flashlight, but unfortunately, I let the battery run down to a scarily low level. I made it into the hallway when I thought I saw a shadow move down the corridor. The problem was this. There should be no moving shadows in the place because I should be the only one there. I stopped to focus and I heard footsteps coming down the hallway toward me. That's when I started running and I heard the footsteps come after me. They echoed off the walls and I couldn't tell if there was more than one person or not, but I didn't care. I just kept running. I knew the only place I could go hide was the server room because it had its own security locks. That is, if they were still working. I had no idea where this intruder was or what they wanted. They could be just looking for some quick snatch and grab, or maybe something worse. Because I didn't want to give away my location, I only used my flashlight for a few seconds at a time. Every time I flashed it on, I could swear I heard someone say, "There he is." That's when I heard their footsteps get closer. I would snap it off and just keep stumbling around in the dark after that. Finally, after a few minutes of this cat and mouse game, I managed to get to the server room, where I hoped and prayed that the locks worked. When I used my security card, I found that it did still work. I swiped in just as I heard footsteps heading my way. As soon as the door slammed shut behind me, I heard footsteps come right towards the door. There was no people and the security camera had stopped working when the power went out. I could swear I heard someone standing right outside in the hallway. Just as I moved my head toward the door, whoever was out there pounded a fist on it, causing me to jump back. I yelled back that I had called the police, but I knew in a storm like this, their response time was going to be pretty long. My breath was coming hard and fast as I waited inside the door. Whoever was out there hit the door one last time, and that was it. I stepped away from the door, and this time I did call the police. The power came on just before the police got there, and once I let my boss know what had happened, they sent in a team to go over the place with a fine-tooth comb. As it turned out, whoever came in only took a few items. I can tell you this, the next day, I asked to be moved from the night shift. Several years ago, I worked the night shift at an office building. My shift started at 8 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. This wasn't a waste of time job. My boss was a hard ass, and there was a lot of things to do, such as emptying the trash for every office and cleaning all the bathrooms. Some nights, a few of the office workers stayed late, and I would chat with them. But more often than not, I would be on my own. It wasn't half bad, but I missed having people around because the place was deadly quiet. I spent a lot of time listening to music, audiobooks, and podcasts to pass the time. This was one of those nights I was alone. Just me and the big empty building. A part of my ritual was to take all the trash I collected down to the loading dock dumpster. One night, I got down there with all my trash, only to find the back door partially open. This was a big no-no. We weren't located in a bad area, but neither was it completely safe. Sometimes I think my presence in the building was the only thing that kept the place protected. That was until that night. I went over and closed the door, but when I turned around, I thought I heard footsteps behind me, back deep inside the building. I was supposed to be alone. Of course, someone could have come in to grab something or take care of some late-night details they had forgotten. My mind wanted it to be that, but my gut said it was something else. The smart move would have been to call the police, but it could have been another employee, so I told myself I had to check it out. I eased out of the loading dock, but I didn't see anyone. I could swear I heard a door click behind me. I grabbed one of my heavy brooms off my cart and ventured into the building. I can tell you, I was shaking a little bit. Armed with my broom, I entered a back hallway that led into the office areas. The place had been pleasant and safe before. Now every shadow seemed alive and ready to jump out at me. I gripped my broom in my hands, carrying it like a sword. I hadn't heard anything for a couple minutes, but I turned a corner, and standing at the end of a row of offices was a dark, hulking figure. To me, he looked as wide as the corridor. My broom felt like a toothpick in my hands. I dropped it, turned, and ran. That's when I heard footsteps behind me, and they were coming fast. I was running too fast to pull out my cell phone to make a call, but I heard the footfalls chasing after me. I had the advantage of knowing the layout of the building, so I got some space between me and my pursuer. I ended up ducking down a side corridor where I hid in the shadows as he ran past me. When he went by, I saw that he was carrying a long-bladed knife. I stood stock still for a long time. Then I slipped down the corridor and out a side door where I called the police. They took forever to get there, and a couple of cops searched the building from top to bottom, but they didn't find anyone. I discovered a couple desks had been rifled through and some petty cash had been taken. The cops told me that several places in the area had been broken into, and in one case, a guy who had been working late had been put in the hospital. They didn't give me any details, but I could just imagine that this guy had been stabbed. I was glad to have been fast on my feet. Every night after that, I made sure all the doors were shut and locked tight. I'm a bit of a workaholic, so that left me at the office long after my coworkers had gone home on most nights. I was fortunate because my work had a parking garage close by. That meant my car was safe and I didn't have to go that far to get to it. The neighborhood around work wasn't the greatest though, and there had been some problems with break-ins. After an extra long day of work, I left work well after sunset and headed for the parking garage. Because I was usually the first in and the last out, I was parked on the 5th floor. I'm not superstitious or easily spooked, but on this night, I felt a sense of unease when I entered the garage. It was like I wasn't alone, but there were so few cars in the garage, there was little or no chance there was someone else there. So still, I looked around just to make sure it was safe. Once I made it to the 5th floor, I had to walk across the entire floor to get to my car, which was parked pretty far away from the stairs. As I walked, I felt that sense of unease rise inside me again, so I stopped and looked around. It seemed like there was danger in every shadow. Maybe I was just being paranoid. I decided that getting to my car as fast as I could was the best thing I could do. As I walked toward it, I noticed something on one of the windows. It looked like a smudge. But as I got closer, I saw something in the middle of the smudge. It was a handprint. Well, I thought, Someone must have slapped their hand onto my window. But when I went to wipe it off, I couldn't. That gave me pause, because that meant that someone had made the mark from inside the car. I slowly backed away and I saw a dark figure rise up inside my car. That's when my heart started hammering away in my chest. When I turned and started running away, I heard the car door open and slam shut. Then I heard footsteps on the concrete. I started sprinting toward the stairs. As I rushed inward, I heard footfalls on the stairs, echoing off the walls, and they seemed to be gaining on me. In my mind, I saw a man with a knife or a gun about to catch up with me, but I didn't look back and just kept on running. When I made it to the ground floor, I ran back to my office building, which was locked. Just before I went inside, though, I turned to see if I was still being followed, but there was no one there. Still, I called building security to walk me to my car just in case. Every time I parked in the garage after that, I always double-checked to make sure my car was locked tight.